The book of Mark is the shortest gospel in the New Testament, but it is filled with action and urgency. Mark presents Jesus as the Son of God, focusing on his miracles, teachings, and sacrifice. Written by John Mark, a close associate of Peter, this gospel emphasizes Jesus' authority over nature, demons, and death. Mark's fast-paced narrative brings us face to face with the power of Christ. Mark begins with the ministry of John the Baptist and the baptism of Jesus, Mark 1:1-11. This introduction immediately highlights Jesus as the Son of God and his divine authority. After his baptism, Jesus is driven into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. This teaches us the importance of Jesus' divine mission from the start, and how he triumphed over temptation and opposition. Throughout the book of Mark, Jesus' authority is demonstrated through his miracles. From casting out demons in Mark 1:23-28 to healing the sick and raising the dead, Mark 5:35-43, Mark shows Jesus as the powerful Son of God. These miracles teach us that Jesus has authority over all things: sickness, nature, and death. His compassionate acts show his deep care for humanity, revealing the power of God's kingdom. Mark includes several key parables that reveal truths about God's kingdom. In Mark 4, Jesus shares the parable of the sower, the mustard seed, and the lamp on a stand. These parables teach us that God's kingdom starts small but grows, and that those who hear and believe will bear fruit. Jesus' teachings in these parables help us understand how to live as citizens of God's kingdom. Mark emphasizes the cost of discipleship, particularly in Mark 8:34, where Jesus says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross." This teaches us that following Jesus requires self-denial, sacrifice, and commitment. Mark shows us that discipleship is not an easy path but a rewarding one. The call to follow Jesus challenges us to give up our lives for the sake of the gospel. In Mark 8:29, Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah. This moment is significant because it marks a turning point in the disciples' understanding of who Jesus is. Peter's confession teaches us that recognizing Jesus as the Messiah is crucial to faith. This declaration also prepares the disciples for the revelation of Jesus' coming suffering, death, and resurrection. Mark highlights this important moment as a key element of understanding Jesus' identity and mission. Mark's Gospel devotes a significant portion to the events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion. In Mark 10:45, Jesus says, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." This teaches us about the sacrificial nature of Jesus' mission. Mark emphasizes that Jesus' death was part of God's plan to save humanity. The crucifixion demonstrates the depth of God's love and the extent of Jesus' obedience to his Father. Mark concludes with the resurrection of Jesus, a central event in the Christian faith. In Mark 16:6, the angel declares, "He is risen." This teaches us that Jesus has conquered death, fulfilling God's promise of salvation. The resurrection is the pinnacle of the gospel, showing that Jesus' power extends beyond the grave. For believers, this event assures us of eternal life and the victory of God's kingdom over death. One of the distinct features of Mark's gospel is its sense of urgency. The word immediately is frequently used, emphasizing the swift pace of Jesus' ministry and the pressing need for action. This teaches us that the message of the gospel is urgent. We are called to respond to Jesus without hesitation and share his message with others. Mark's urgency reminds us that the time to follow Jesus is now, and the call to spread the gospel is a priority. Mark presents Jesus as the servant king, emphasizing his humility and willingness to serve. In Mark 10:44, Jesus teaches, "Whoever wants to be first must be the slave of all." This teaches us that true greatness in God's kingdom is found in serving others. Jesus models this through his entire ministry, from healing the sick to washing his disciples' feet. Mark's portrayal of Jesus calls us to adopt a life of servanthood and humility. The book of Mark is relevant for modern readers because it focuses on the action and power of Jesus' ministry. It teaches us to embrace the urgency of the gospel and follow Christ with commitment and courage. Whether through his miracles, teachings, or sacrificial death, Mark shows us that Jesus is the Son of God, and his call to discipleship is as urgent today as it was in the first century. Mark's emphasis on faith, action, and servanthood challenges us to live with purpose and faithfulness. The book of Mark teaches us about the life, power, and sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Through his miracles, teachings, and resurrection, we learn that Jesus is the Son of God, and we are called to follow him as true disciples. Mark's message of urgency and servanthood resonates with believers today, reminding us to live in faith, action, and service. His gospel remains a powerful testimony to the transforming work of Christ in the world. Thank you for exploring the book of Mark with us. We hope this study has deepened your understanding of Jesus' life and teachings. May Mark's message inspire you to follow Christ with greater devotion and urgency, and to serve others with the heart of a servant, just as Jesus modeled during his ministry.